Okay, hello everyone. Arindo here, and today I want to show you and to go over some of the changes that we made to the migrator in this version that we're going to release today, 2.0.7. It includes a more or less complete refactoring of the migrator, and based on our tests, it is behaving pretty consistently in networks of different sizes. So we tested this in a couple of networks with more than 10,000 sites, and it seems to be working smoothly. It does take a while, of course. It's a lot of data to migrate, but it does also work pretty well for small networks as well. Um, but yeah, so the idea here is to go over a couple of the changes, how the flow works, what tools are available if something goes wrong, and how you can help us make sure that the migrator gets better and better, and yeah, and that you can all can come and be part of the user base that is already using version 2. Yeah, so as you can see here, I have a couple of, I have a network set up for version 1 here, and I went ahead and installed all the add-ons that we have, uh, minus the admin themes and admin page creator, because they don't really depend on WP Ultimo. The same is true for the feature plugins. So domain seller and blocks. We got a small connection problem here, but they are installed here. And I just went ahead and created a couple of elements here. So we have a test webhook created here. We have a test broadcast created here. This table is messed up. But yeah, and I also made some changes. First, let's go to the coupons here. I created a coupon code that expires at the end of the year with 50% off on the subscription and $10 off on the setup fee. And on the plans, I went ahead and added a setup fee to the medium plan here. And I made some changes in terms of permissions. So in allowed plugins, we have contact form 7 and Yoast SEO. And for themes, we have Astra and Hello from Elementor. Another quick thing that I want to show you is that since I have installed all the add-ons, that includes the plugin and theme manager. So I basically rebranded Astra to basic and added the basic category here. And I also changed the image for Astra, just so we can see how things are progressing once we restart the migration process. So the last thing we need to do here would be to create an account, a new account. So as you can see here, I changed a couple of colors here and there, just so we can check as well. Let's go with the medium plan. Test 2, I already have a test site, test 2. Continue to the next step, test 2, test 2 at test.dev, 123, 123, 123, 123. Let's create our account here. And it is asking for payment right away. Let's go ahead and add Stripe. Just because it's easier. And it also allows us to see if the payment data, which is the arguably the most important data to migrate, is being properly managed as well. So let's go with John Smith here. I'm not sure if I need to turn on the webhooks. I don't think so, but let's try it out and see how it goes. Yeah, I think I might need to do that. Okay, but we have the current thing here. Okay, so let's since we're here, let's add a map domain here. This has potential to break this subsite, but let's add it here. And let me grab my VS Code here, drop it over here, just so we can add the Stripe webhooks and make sure we can confirm the payment when we get it. So let me, just a second, notify. Okay, and here we are at migrator.local dot, yeah, migrator.local dot nothing. Okay, so let's try to create another account now that we have Stripe listening to our webhook calls. So let's log out here. Yeah, the reason why this is broken is because we added a map domain without actually having a map domain. That works, but let's just create another account here. And I think that should be it. So test3 at test.dev 123 123 123 123. Okay. Okay, so let's go to Stripe once more and add the payment data. And I'm checking here on my second monitor if we have, if the webhooks are working or not. Yeah, we got them, but okay, I think I messed up. Yeah, I did. Okay, so we'll end up having to add create yet another account. I'm sorry. Let's do that now with the right URL. Oh my god. Yep. Okay. Let's log out here. Register. Medium. Test 4? I think so. Okay, I think now we are getting the webhook calls in the way that I was expecting. Let's check. Yeah, more or less. I'm still not sure. I got a bunch of 400s here. Um, okay. Oh my god, yeah. I'm sorry guys, my mistake. I was adding the wrong URL once again. Let's try that just one more time and then Stripe will be able to notify us correctly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so while Stripe starts the listener, let's create a test 5, and it might be a good thing that we have more than one account, just so we can go over. So the reason why I'm not starting with like a set of existing subscriptions is that I wanted to show the changes that I did to the plans and stuff like that. Yeah, now we're getting the proper webhook calls, and not have like everything ready and make it seem like maybe things were set up in advance. Um, okay, yep. I think I think we got all the webhooks now. Yeah. Okay, and we did. So now we have the initial payment, and the data was like added to from Stripe to our membership here. So if we go to subscriptions, we have one active, a bunch failed, and yeah. So just to go over some of the limitations of the plan, I went through the plugins, the themes, but I also made changes to the quotas. So here we have a 5, 10, 15, just so it's easier to distinguish. And I am disabling posts for this plan. Disk space is 222, extra users is 5, one extra site, and the visits are set to 1,000. Yeah. So now it comes the good part. We are going to bring this network to version 2. So I'll do things in a different way here. So first, I'm going to use this version here, WP Ultimo 2.0.7 dash broken. And the reason why I'm going to use it is just so I can go over what the migrator do when something goes wrong with the migration process. Okay, so yeah, it is installing. Yeah, it probably shouldn't take that long, but yeah, it's probably something to do with my internet connection over here. So it will ask if we want to upgrade, since we already have WP Ultimo here as an existing plugin. Let's go ahead and replace the current version with the version we just uploaded. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I have to use OBS to record this, and it takes a toll on my machine. So running the sites locally and then running OBS, it's a bit too much. But yeah, should be ready any moment now. Just have to be patient. Okay. Yeah, this is probably taking way too long by this point. So I'm not sure if we broke anything here. Yeah. It usually shouldn't take this long. Okay, finally. Yep. Yeah, so this screen here is still like takes elements from the previous version that we had installed. But if we go to any other page, we'll be greeted by this ginormous block that we have here. So the idea here is that when you install this version of WP Ultimo, WP Ultimo v2, starting on 2.0.7, we include a bunch of extra checks to make sure that the things that we have already set up do not break the network, just so you can take the extra steps that take to migrate your network from version 1 to version 2. So you see here this message. So the first thing that we need to do is to run the migrator, but I just wanted to go over this block over here. So what we do is that we detect every single add-on that you have installed, and we give you tips based on how well supported those add-ons are with the current version of WP Ultimo 2.0. So for example, we have the old version of the WooCommerce integration, but there is a new version of the WooCommerce integration that is fully compatible with WP Ultimo version 2. So an update will appear, and here we are actively blocking these add-ons from being loaded to prevent crashes and things like that. So, and for example, multiple accounts, this add-on is no longer required. It is part of WP Ultimo Core, and you can activate it on the settings, login, and registration. But we do that for you via the migrator automatically. Blocks are deprecated. We have now a set of blocks that are part of WP Ultimo Core. Domain seller, there is a new version coming soon. And pro sites, there is we don't really have plans to add a migrator specifically for pro sites at the moment, but that can change. And if that change, we'll update the message here as well. And for plugin and theme manager, we do have a new version compatible with WP Ultimo version 2, but the old version is also supported. So we display a message here for you, but we don't disable the plugin or will require that you upgrade. You can continue to use the old version as it is still completely compatible. So now we can go through the migrator. So we just need to click that button, and it is pretty similar to the process that we have for a fresh installation, where there isn't any data from the old version. But here, since we have data from the previous version, it detects that data and displays the migration step here. So let me activate my copy here. And this is one thing that you need to do. So the new version, WP Ultimo version 2, it's only compatible with the new license keys that we have. So if you have an old license key, such as the ones that we had for Gumroad or Code Canyon, you need to ask for a license migration. So here I just went ahead and activated my copy. Let's create the database tables that we need. And then we get to the migration step. So this here is the most important step of the entire process. And what we've done with this build is that we condensed all the checks into one single step that we can control, and we do the checks in a we don't test for the entirety of the network, because that was not working for networks that were like 10,000 sites or bigger. So the idea here is that we just take a sample set of data of the current version, and we run the tests on that subset of data. And if anything goes wrong there, we know that there's something that we need to look at. But if it works, it will most likely work for the entire data set as well. So if you remember well, I uploaded a version that was called WP Ultimo 2.0.7 broken. And the reason why it had the broken attached to its name is that I actually made some changes to make sure that we didn't pass the check here. And that has a explanation. I want to show you what happens if the migration goes wrong, which is something that could very well happen. So what we do is that we display to you a list of the errors that we found. We give you a quick way to download the migration logs. So let's do that here, just so I can open up and show you. So if we open the logs here, you'll see that we started the check, and I was calling a function that didn't exist, that threw an exception, and we detected that as an error. And a lot of things that might go wrong with a migration trigger an exception that is then catched by the migrator, and we get this error screen here. But now that you have a migration that failed, what are your options? So other than downloading the migration error log and checking if maybe you can spot what caused the migration error and fix it yourself. But we also give you two other options. The first is this one here at the top. So the dry run test detected issues. Please contact our support team. So if you click here, what we'll do is that we will add our support widget here, and it gets pre-populated with your data and the error messages. That way you can just click send a message, and our support team will get the report, and we can use it to start working on it, basically. And if this for some reason was a live network that you didn't test in a staging network beforehand, you can just click here to roll back to the previous version, and it takes you to the WP Ultimo rollback page, and you can click that you understand the risks of rolling back, yeah, blah blah blah, and click the rollback button to downgrade your network back to the previous WP Ultimo version. So now that I showed you how things work for when you have something wrong, let's upload the proper WP Ultimo build here without the error, just so we can see what happens then. And yeah, I forgot that it took a long time to to upload the previous time. But yeah, well. um, mm, mm, mm. Okay, yeah, it didn't take that long this time. Let's replace with the new version. So, a quick note, I do recommend that you upgrade to version 2 using the WordPress zip uploader. Because what is happening is that a couple of our users were using FTP to upload the new version, and since we have different files and file names, um they ended up with a WP Ultimo folder that contained both files from version 1 and files from version 2, and that caused some issues in some very specific edge cases. But so that's why I would avoid doing the upgrade via FTP or SFTP unless you first delete the WP Ultimo folder and then upload the new WP Ultimo folder. Okay, so now we have the proper version of WP Ultimo. Let's go through all the steps again. Yeah, agree and activate. Go to the next step. And now we reach the migration step again, and it keeps track of the errors that we have found so far, just so we don't lose them if you refresh the page or anything like that. So let's try again. Now it should work because we removed the problem function there, and it did. So what happens now is that it takes us to the actual migration screen, and here we have different steps that migrate each individual WP Ultimo data type, if you wish. But yeah, let's just go ahead and migrate. So the first step, we create a dump of the database, then settings, then plans, customers, memberships, transactions, payments, discount codes, customer sites, site templates, domains, checkout forms, emails, broadcasts, blah blah blah. And yeah, and then we can just click finish here. Okay, so before I go ahead and we go over the things that were migrated, I wanted to take a minute to go over how the migrator works for small networks and for larger networks. For small networks, it works just like what you saw here. We send a single HTTP call to a migration endpoint, and that migrator handles the migration. But if your network is really large, WP Ultimo tries to do two different things. First, we try to bypass server limitations that you might have. So we set the timeout of the server to a very large number to prevent timeouts from happening in the middle of a migration process. And we set the memory limits of PHP to a really high number as well. The problem with that approach is that not every server allows that to happen. So what we do as well is that we try to set the limitations, and if we're not able to, we break the migrator into different pages. And then on the front end, it all looks the same. But on the back end, what happens is that the first call, instead of trying to migrate all the memberships, sites, and things all at once, what we do is that we create 10 concurrent requests that migrate on a page per page basis. So we would have 10 processes on the background running 75 items at the same time. And as soon as one page finishes, the other one starts up. So you always have 10 migrator instances running at the same time. And with that approach, we are able to migrate pretty large networks in a reasonable amount of time. And as a result, even if we are not able to set the server timeout values, we are able to migrate all of those items with such like speed that we don't reach the timeouts that are set. That being said, this is the single point of failure that I think we'll probably need to do some tweaking. So if you have a really large network and you're planning to run the migrator on a staging instance or something like that, and you run into a timeout issue, please let me know so we can take a look. Because I'm anticipating having to do some tweaks here and there just to make sure that we have the size of the page right and the number of parallel migrators to a configuration, a combination that is the most efficient, and there is like that guarantees the least number of server timeouts from happening as possible. But yeah, so let's go through the things that we migrated. So first, let's take a look at plans. And here, as you see, if just so I don't forget, if we go to plugins, now that our copy was activated, I can actually see the updates for the WooCommerce integration. It should show up for the plugin theme manager. Maybe it's just a caching thing here. Let's do a refresh, check for updates. Yeah, it did show up. So, but as I mentioned, for WooCommerce, you are more or less like required to upgrade. For plugin and theme manager, you are not. So if we go to install themes, you'll see that we still have basic as the name for Astra and the category here. But just so I can show you how it works, let's run the upgrade here. Okay, that's done. Let's go back to install themes here. So same thing, but now using the new version of the add-on. It migrates the image that I had added before, and it's all the same thing. Yeah, so let's go back to products so we can take a quick look here. We made changes to medium, but you can see here already that we have the setup fee that we added. In terms of limitations, the 5, 10, 15 that we had, we still have here, and the posts were disabled. Disk space, visits, it's all here. The only thing that we needed to take a different approach, and I had to make a decision, was that on the previous version, we had a single limit for the number of users allowed on a subsite. And now we allow you to limit the number of users on a per user role basis. So the decision that I made here was basically to apply the old limit to all the user roles. It's not ideal, but I thought it was a better approach than to try to figure out a way to distribute the limits evenly between the different user roles or anything fancy like that. So it might be something to keep in mind, that if you had a user limitation before, you might need to make some adjustments to the user limitations after the migration. So let's go to discount codes. And yeah, we have our discount code here. It expires on the date that we set. It has the same setup value discount, the same value discount. Let's check broadcasts. And yeah, we also have our old broadcast here. And we try to keep dates consistent. So we also migrate the dates where the model, the data types were originally created, rather than the dates where the version 2 version of those items were created. If we go to sites, we should see it migrated the default template site, and all of the other sites that we created were customer owned. And now let's go to customers. And we have our customers here, including test 5, which is appearing as online because I have it here. But yeah, and finally, let's go to memberships, because there's something important that we need to check here. So all of the other memberships, we didn't finish the payment integration thing, but with this one here, we did. So the thing that I'm most interested in is the gateway data, which is the thing that we really need. And as you can see here, it pulled that we use Stripe, it pulled the customer ID correctly and the subscription ID correctly. And the reason why pulling that info here is important is because that we use these values to handle webhooks that come from Stripe. And so it's super important that we are able to migrate those, because those make sure that when a new payment comes along, we are still able to figure out which customer that payment belongs to, which membership that payment belongs to, based on this info here. And that also means that you don't need to change the webhook URL on Stripe right away, because we add a fallback on WP Ultimo version 2 that still listens on the same URL that you added for version 1, and we are able to treat that the webhook that Stripe sends our way and format that webhook data into something that version 2 can understand and can use to renew memberships or create payments and stuff like that. But yeah, and here, just so we can check, this membership is inheriting the limitations from the plan. So all the limitations that we saw before, they apply here, and of course you can customize them on a membership per membership basis, as we mentioned before. The two themes that we had available, they are still available. I'm sorry about the car outside. And the plugins that we had set, that were contact form and eOst, they are set as visible here, and all the others are hidden, which is not the default behavior for version 2, but it's the only way that we can mimic the behavior that we have on version 1. So we migrate things in a way that they work, that they work like the close as possible as they worked on version 1. And then if you need to make changes to make use of new features that are available only on version 2, you can choose to integrate those changes as you go. You don't need to, we don't force you to use the new features at the time of the migration, because that could cause breakages and it could change the behavior of some of the features that your users are already used to. I believe we also have a map domain, and it migrated correctly. When we have a map domain, we don't add any checks. We migrate them as ready right away. We don't check for DNS propagation. We don't check for anything, and we use the old option that we had on version 1, the option that allowed you to force HTTPS for map domains. We use that, the value of that option, to decide if we set the map domains to HTTPS or not. So if you had that set, the forced HTTPS option enabled, here we would have the HTTPS set to true as well. Now let me log out here. Just so we can. So not a lot has changed. We do add a different page URL. Now it's sign up, but the old URL redirects to the new URL, so that should signify no change to your user. And here at the bottom, we do have an extra step, which is the checkout step from version 2 that we add on the same checkout flow that we had for version 1. Yeah, I think that covers most of the things that I had to go over with you. So one last thing. So we had multiple accounts activated. So if I go to settings here, and go to login and registration, where is it? Yeah, it was not enabled, I think. But if you had multiple accounts enabled, we turn the option automatically for you. So you can just go ahead and disable the old add-on. And the last thing that we do on the migration process that I don't have here to show to you is that we detect any integrations that you had set up on version 1, and we activate and configure them automatically. That way you don't need to do those things again. You don't have to set up those again, because we do those activations and setup testing for you while the migration is running. Yeah, so this covers the migrator. I hope it helps, give you a overview of how things are working for the migration now. I still recommend that you set up and run the migration on a staging network, not on your live network, just to be extra sure. And as I mentioned, there is a risk depending on your server that you might run into timeouts while running the migrator. So it's always the safest option to run something like this on a staging version of your network. And the closest your staging version is to your live version in terms of the number of websites, the number of memberships, the better, because otherwise it might work on the staging due to the size. And when you try to run on your live network, the results are not the same. You might have a timeout issue. So it's always a good idea to run on a staging version of your live network. A staging, there's the closest staging setup that you can have to your live network. Yeah, other than that, this build includes a couple of other fixes. I have to admit that working on the migrator took the vast majority of the team's time for the past week. So we were not able to finish the work on the affiliates WP, uh, the new version of the affiliate WP integration add-on that we had, and it also we were also not able to work that much on the new version of the domain seller, which was scheduled to be released this Friday, and the affiliates WP integration was scheduled to be out last Friday. So we are probably going to need a week more to get to work on those and release the first versions. And I would really appreciate if you guys can take the new version of the migrator and run on your staging networks and report back the results. It's really important for us, and it gives us the extra confidence that we need to be able to turn the update and make the new version 2 appear as an update for every WP Ultimo version 1 user, which is still not the case. But yeah. So this version also fixes an issue with the Cloudflare integration, where Cloudflare was injecting their DNS entries on the DNS propagation checker, even when Cloudflare was not active. So what would happen is that Cloudflare would break basically because there's no API keys, nothing, and that would in turn break the DNS propagation checker. And that's the reason why a lot of users were reporting issues with the DNS propagation checker. That should be fixed with this version. We had an issue where Stripe checkout was not concluding payments because it was treating all payments as if they were an upgrade. This is also fixed on this version. And most of the other things here had to do with the migrator. So yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. I know that I have some topics, conversations to reply to on the community. I'm sorry, I was just like super uh, deep on the migration code, especially the portion of the migrator that deals with large networks. Because, and when I mean not large networks, it's like the approach that we had originally, where we tried to migrate networks all at once for every network size, it started to break really soon, like at the 2 to 300 memberships membership count. So depending on the server and the timeouts and things like that. So it did take a good while for me to be able to come up with a solution that allowed allowed us to migrate larger networks without running into these issues. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, please send me a message or tag me, mention me on a conversation here, the community. And yeah, uh, I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Thank you. Bye.